to our webinar session today. We are going to be diving into the childcare industry, what some of the big changes coming up are, and what that means for business owners of childcare businesses. So for those of you who haven't joined a webinar of ours before, I'm Hannah Curtis. I'm a coordinator with the North Metro Small Business Development Center. We help businesses of all types start, grow, and prosper through one-on-one consulting services with our business professionals and through educational opportunities like these webinars and online courses and some other resources for you that way. So we are joined today by Dawn Alexander, a child care specialist with the SBDC, and she has years of experience in the child care industry in a whole variety of roles. So she's really the expert in the field, and we're excited to hear all that she has to share with us today. If you do have questions, we definitely welcome those. We want this to be as interactive as possible, and while you are muted, you can type in any questions that you have into the questions tab, or you can use the chat feature. Both of those are on the right-hand side of your GoToWebinar panel. So we'll be keeping an eye on those throughout the presentation. And this will be recorded, and we'll send out the recording later this afternoon along with the slides as well, so you can have access to the materials after the fact. So with that, Dawn, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you guys for coming to find out more about the childcare industry. Things right now are amazing. I've never seen a time in this industry where there's been so much happening at once and so many opportunities and changes and things to, I mean, we worry, right? We all worry a little bit about some of the things that are coming. We're doing a lot of advocacy work to make sure that things are implemented in an effective way. And the great part about the childcare industry today is every single one of you has the opportunity to really be a part of that feedback chain to build a new system that can be extraordinary in Colorado and set an example nationwide. So as far as the industry in childcare, there are some pretty big things happening. That there was a Senate bill, I lost the number. I can't believe I did that. Senate bill, nope, I didn't put it on there either. Okay, so they created a Department of Early Childhood through last year's legislative session, this past legislative session. And so currently, the state of Colorado is looking at, with this additional office, figuring out what kind of early childhood services and supports and programs are going to move over into the new Department of Early Childhood. And so really they're looking at these different programs that come from like the Department of Education, potentially, the Office of Early Childhood, certainly, and then the Department of Public Health. They have all the different programs, the food program and the maternal and child health block grant for home visitations and WIC and CPP and special ed services, all these different parts and pieces that are so intertwined in different departments throughout the state. And they're really having to figure out right now what moves over to the new department, the Department of Early Childhood. That department goes into effect July of 2022. So it is coming fast and furious, and they have to get everything developed together so that they can go ahead and have that department start effective that date statewide. So it is not a small task. There have been other states that have attempted this and to varying degrees of success. And really it is a great opportunity for Colorado overall. At the last TAG meeting, which is a group of people statewide that take summaries from subgroup sessions and then they make recommendations, they have determined that really that these programs from OEC should all move over to the new department. And so anything from the Office of Early Childhood here would definitely be moving into that new structure. And then the questions come around all the rest of this, right? Should they move TANF? Should they move child welfare, or should that stay where it is? What about the P3 office at the Department of Education? All of those things. But this whole structure of OEC, the Office of Early Childhood, they did say would be a part that would definitely move over. So if you were receiving services or functions from the Office of Early Childhood, that would transfer over into the new department, which is pretty exciting. So the Early Childhood Legislative Commission has the opportunity for you to give lots of feedback, right? So really, if you go to this link I've got here for you, in that spot there are connections for you for listening sessions that they're doing, town halls that they're offering, monthly newsletters that they're putting out. You can get participate in a statewide listening tour. And there are stakeholder feedback links in this on that page down at the very bottom, where if you want to give input about something that is happening in the industry or that you want to see happen in the new system, then that is a great place to do that. It is obvious that there is a ton of work being done behind the scenes because the logistics of moving all these parts and pieces is extreme. And they have to have everything in place by July 1. But everything, all the feedback that they're receiving goes forward to recommendations for legislators so that they can put together the final pieces that need to be in place this next legislative session in order to make sure that the department is starting out from a solid place. Timelines in the industry right now are that coming up this week on Thursday, there is a sub-PAC and PAC meeting that will do a vote on the current proposed rules for center-based programs. So every 5 years, they have a statutorial requirement to update the regulations for licensed programs. And so this is that update. There were a lot of changes that were proposed in that rule set, and then the rule set was open for public comment, and people have been able to give recommendations and requests and express concerns. And so we will see at SubPAC this Thursday what is the final version that they are moving forward with. And so SubPAC will go ahead and vote on that. And then at PAC in the afternoon, they will vote on that again. And if it passes there, then it will go to DORA the next morning. And then once it passes there, then that new rule set will go into effect in October 1. So similarly, the process for family child care home rules is underway. And so they're still gathering information from stakeholders in the community. And then they will place that rule set open for public comment towards the end of this year or in January. And then it will go through that same process of approval through SubPAC, PAC, and DORA to then become the new set of regulations in the state. They are working on, the Office of Early Childhood Background Investigation Unit is working on a new online trails background check system that will go into effect. At this point, they're looking at December of 2021. So you no longer will have to, centers, you'll no longer have to fill out paper versions of the application and submitting that through the mail. You'll be able to do that online instead, which is terrific. And then in 2022, they are moving to the background checks no longer being tied to the program, but being tied to the individual, which will be amazing. Because then if an individual leaves one program and goes to another, there is no waiting for background checks to come back then. And so you'll be able to access those records. The specifics of that we don't have at this time, but it will certainly minimize the impact on the state and what they have to do when a professional moves from program to program, and just make it a much more efficient process. I also believe that that is going to create the opportunity for individuals to become sole proprietors doing their own sub care for family childcare homes, becoming a sub in multiple homes and kind of networking for themselves. The great thing about that is that individual actually performing the services can assume the risk involved in that. And so I think we will see a whole new system of supports develop out of that, just that background check rule, which will be great. July 1st of 2022, like I said, the new department, the Department of Early Childhood will be in place. And so probably the programs from OEC would transfer over there first, would be my suspicion, but we will get specifics in November from the state from the governor's office and then ultimately later from the state legislature on really what they want to see from that. And then in 2023 for June, July, August, the universal preschool program begins. So a couple of years ago, the tobacco tax passed that would guarantee universal preschool for all children in the state of Colorado that are 4 years of age or older, that they could have 10 hours of free universal preschool. And so that has to take place in a mixed delivery system. So family child care homes can be included in that. Centers, private centers, public programs, just the entire gambit has to be available for parents to choose from. That is an enormous system that is going to have a tremendous impact on our state overall. And so figuring out the logistics behind that is going to be a huge task. And they've already kind of started working on that and have had community conversations for the past couple of years, making recommendations about that. They really want to see that funding sources are blended and braided up at the state level and then drop down to the child, to the providers that are serving the children in their programs directly, so that as a provider, you're not having to figure out 4 different funding sources and apply for that and do compliance for all of those different systems of fees. So that's going to be really, really complicated, but they're trying to make it something that will make the system very efficient and effective. And so really, as a provider, as a professional in this field, times have never been more challenging, right? COVID, we all know, wiped people out. And it's to this day really creating a huge challenge for directors and owners, for home providers, for everyone in the system. Nobody has enough workforce. There is this ongoing challenge to find people to employ. Regularly on Facebook, you will see comments that someone will have 15 applicants for a job and maybe 1 will show up for an actual interview. Directors are overwhelmed and don't want to even have to go back to their owners to tell them that they just cannot find workforce. And so that is our huge challenge to date right now, right? So there are a lot of federal conversations about how to improve that system, how to provide a livable wage for everyone that works in it. There is a lot of movement right now on the federal level, a lot of talk about the possibility of universal free preschool nationwide. We'll see what comes from all of that political movement, whether something comes out of that or not. But you will see that in the news on a regular basis at this point. I also work for the Early Childhood Education Association of Colorado. I'm the executive director there, and I do a lot of compiling of information to distill that out to the industry. And so if you are interested in receiving our weekly childcare update, just email me at info@coloradoecea.org and ask to be added to the mailing list, and I can make sure you are on that. And then as I receive information about these different programs and different changes in the industry, I will certainly distill that out to you. Let's see here. So coming very soon is some help. So last legislative session, there was a bill called 21236, which would establish some grant funding opportunities. It actually increased what you could get from the emerging and expanding grants. It created a business-based childcare program for employers to build for their employees on site or within a very close geographic region. If you know of a program or you're interested in starting a program like that for a business or for a pool of businesses in your area, then Epic is a company that has a design lab that can help you kind of walk through the steps of what you would need in order to make that happen. The great thing about that that opportunity is it's a funding opportunity too. And so if you're a for-profit, they're still going to pay half of what the cost would be, up to, I think they said $800,000. That sounds about right. So that you could get support in creating that benefit for your employees. If you're a nonprofit, then they actually reimburse even at a higher rate. So pretty exciting stuff. Employers are certainly challenged these days with how to support their workforce. They've got people that are wanting to stay home because then they can be there with the kids and the various competing priorities that we all have. And so this is an opportunity for businesses to provide that support for their employees. So if you know of someone that might be interested or could qualify for that, you can reach out to Hannah here at the SBDC because she can get you connected to the right place, or just contact Epic directly, and they will have that support for you in place. There is something called a Circle grant that's coming, which is community solutions for the childcare industry. So if you have a great idea, an innovative idea that can make a difference in the industry, then they would like to provide Circle grant funding for that. They are also going to provide workforce support out of Senate Bill 236, and so they're going to help pay for the onboarding of employees. Just the time alone that it takes for a new employee to do all of the trainings that they're required to do, it puts it pretty close to $250 per new employee just to get them onboarded and ready to work in the classroom. And so that workforce support grant will help with those onboarding costs. It will also provide some funding for scholarships and CDAs and all of the different ways and means that a person can become qualified. And so that will be amazing. And then there's a sustainability grant that is coming again. We've had these previously in the industry, and those are federal funds that are coming. OEC was waiting for approval from the governor's office, and once they receive that, they're going to establish some town halls so that they can communicate to each and every one of you directly what the formulas are for providing funding for your program to help you to sustain, given all of the COVID challenges that exist today. So watch for those town halls. I will certainly announce those in the newsletter through ECEA. You want to be a part of that so that you understand the logic of what they've decided to do for support for programs, but it is going to be extremely helpful, which is good news. So in the end, it really is a great time to start your own business in childcare. There are still a lot of obstacles that people encounter, but some of those obstacles are starting to go away. This year for family childcare homes, Senate Bill 21-1222 actually removed the requirement for you to have to comply with local zoning in order to become a licensed childcare provider in your home. And so even though the logistics of that are still being worked out, it's it's an exceptionally wonderful bit of news because lots of local jurisdictions were placing heavy requirements on homes to keep them to make sure that children were safe, and we all understand that the intent of that was safety for children, but they were equating a home with commercial settings, and so they were requiring things like commercial, like a full-on fire suppression system in your house in order to care for 6 children. And so some things were just not very reasonable. And so a lot of people stayed out of this industry for that reason. And so to see those barriers pushed away, it is a pretty exciting time. That means if you want to open a family childcare home, you can certainly do that. There's expanding, there are E&E grants that will help you to get your program up and running. And so some reimbursement funds that are available for that if you're interested. If you have a childcare center and you're not working with your coach to get E&E funding, if there's any way for you to expand your capacity at all, then you can qualify for that E&E funding. So make sure you reach out to your coach at your local early childhood council and get that support. Do that sooner rather than later because those funds are being appropriated and they will max out. So I really recommend you get on that quickly. Here's the great thing about the SBDC, right? We are here to support you. So we have a ton of consultants who have specialties in a whole range of different areas. So we've got people that specialize in bookkeeping. I hate bookkeeping, right? But there are people that actually love bookkeeping and they can walk you through how to do that or what are some good things to consider and how to be successful in your business with that area. I can certainly meet with you if you ever want to do a consultation. Hannah can tell you how to get to our consultant's calendar and sign up for one-on-one free consulting. You can do that as many times as you need to get the support for your business that you need. So really, if you're not in the childcare industry and want to come in, I would love to talk to you about what you're thinking about doing and some avenues and ways to do that. We can put you in touch with supports system-wide that will help you to be successful. Any questions, Hannah?
Yes, yeah, thank you, Mom. That was really helpful. A lot of information to digest, but that's why it'll be really helpful to for you all to have these slides and to review this recording so that you can come back. I know it was a lot. But we do have some questions. I'm curious, with the creation of the new State Department, how is that going to impact like a day in the life of a provider, the day-to-day interactions that providers have? Will it be easier for new businesses to start under the new State Department?
So that would be the hope, right? That's really where we want to get things to be. So we're advocating for efficient services, but well-staffed service supports, so that that new department can, with the things that they've decided to take on as services for the childcare industry, that they do them efficiently and effectively. We really have to make sure that we're not running into 6-week timelines waiting for credential approvals or certainly not for background checks and all of that, right? So really, and the state is facing the same kind of challenge as everyone else, right? Finding people to work. Like it's just a huge challenge all over around. So right now their staff is having to share responsibilities and shift away from their primary roles to fill in gaps in other places. And that can be challenging because then you don't get the comprehensive knowledge base that can be really supportive for you. So that's why when I said at the beginning, it can be a bit scary. That's the scary part, right? Because now the logistics of all of this have to come into being. But really, the Office of Early Childhood does have the division that's been doing licensing. So that group as a whole would move over to the new department to provide those functions. And so I don't anticipate that we would see a decrease in what services and supports we're receiving. And hopefully we would see an actual improvement from the new structure. So time's gonna tell on that. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that'll be exciting to see.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that a lot of the logistics are still being worked through and have yet to be worked through for the universal preschool. Do you have any advice right now of what a provider needs to know to prepare for that change coming up?
So I think, this gives you a great opportunity to follow your passion. So I'm never going to say, go open a preschool because you have the opportunity to access these funding streams or that sort of thing. Like if you really are passionate about serving infants and toddlers, then I want to encourage you to really think about your business model and how do you maximize doing what you're passionate about doing. And so that's going to help you to stay in the business for longer, right? And have that business serve you and your family better. So really think about the things that you love. And if it is preschool, then certainly look at ways to move into the whole preschool thing, maybe more full time. And so maybe you're doing part daycare Monday, Wednesdays, and Tuesdays and Thursdays, and maybe it's a morning program and an afternoon program, or you really have the opportunity to be very creative with your business to make it meet the needs of your community. And demand for infant and toddler care is enormous. And so as we're having these conversations about universal preschool, we're also making sure that we consider how do we support those providers that decide not to be a part of that piece of the industry, and really support and sustain those providers that are caring for infants and toddlers, right? So how do we get additional funding support for them so that they can sustain and do a great job of doing that foundational developmental work with infants and toddlers in Colorado?
Great. Yeah, will be very important. Thank you. And obviously, we know how critical the issue of the workforce is right now, and how we need a higher supply of workforce for the industry. And I know that the Colorado Shines levels decreased to help address some of that issue. Is that a permanent change, that adjustment?
So it is a change in the new rule set, right? So it is actually decreasing the credential level from a level 3 to a level 2. So you guys, if you're in the industry at all, you're used to seeing this on the PDIS site. And so at a level 3, which the current rule set requires for becoming an early childhood teacher, you would need 3 components from professional training, ongoing professional development, and experience from those 3 areas. And then you would need 36 to 50 points. But with the new rules, you're only going to need something from 2 areas here. So if you have any experience or any formal education, including EQUIT or pyramid classes, right? If you take those for a certificate, they're now going to count as formal education, so in that first realm. So if you get points from 2 of those 3 realms, there's also a demonstrated competency realm, but not as many people have had exposure in that one. But if you get 2 sections there and just 21 points, and then you will be qualified as an early childhood teacher. And so we've had a lot of feedback for the state requesting that you no longer have to submit for approval on credentials, that OEC instead reviews those after the fact. We'll see if that change comes into effect, if they really consider that and build that into the rule set as well. That could help alleviate a lot of the pressure on the industry. So if they don't do that, then we'll have to look at if there's some advocacy efforts that we need to do with the legislature around that to provide those supports for workforce.
Great, good to know. Wonderful. Well, those are the questions that we have had, but I want it to be very clear too. If people want to be involved in these big decisions that are being made, they can join the association. They can participate in the listening groups or the the community hearing groups, Are there other things that people should know about to stay involved in this decision-making process?
Certainly, at the link that's in the slides, go there and you'll see all of those opportunities listed there. And so you can sign up for newsletters, you can sign up to stay in the know on all of these different things. You can give your input there in a data collection tool that they have there. So you just click on it and fill out the survey and give your input. And certainly if you want to get weekly updates on anything in the industry, just email me at info@coloradoecea.org and I'll add you to that regular weekly update that I do to help make sure that you've got the information that you need. And every time there's an engagement opportunity, I'll be putting that in there, trying to connect you to a way to give voice.
Perfect. Thank you for keeping us all up to date on all the things we need to know. Very helpful. And some of those links are there in the chat for y'all, and it'll be in the follow-up email as well, so you can get connected.
Well, and as you can imagine, it's a challenge, right? Talking about all of these things that are coming to be when we really don't know what they're in actuality going to be. So it's a crazy time. There are right now there are 4 subgroup meetings a week, and they're each 2 hours long. And those go for a 2-week increment, and then they take a week off while the tag meets for 2.5 hours that week. And so there's just, if you look on that page, you're going to see meeting after meeting after meeting. You do not have to be involved in all of those, but if there's a particular area that you're passionate about, jump in and be a part of the conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dawn. We really appreciate that. And
Absolutely.
of course, as Dawn mentioned, you can always reach out to the SBDC to get connected with a consultant if you have questions about your own childcare business. You can meet with Dawn, you can meet with one of our other consultants if you have questions about marketing or finances or legalities, whatever it might be, we can always get you connected. So the website to go to for that is northmetrosbdc.com. And I'll put some of that information in our follow-up email as well so that you can get connected if that's what you're looking to do. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Dawn, so much for all this information. It's really helpful as we move forward. And,
absolutely. And you guys are rock stars in this industry. Like the passion that you have for children, don't grow weary, right? Just put your focus there and know that you're making a difference, like a lifelong difference for the kids that are in your care. So keep up the good work.
Yes, such needed. Great. Well, thank you, Dawn. Thank you all. We hope you have a great rest of your day.